When the first whispers emerged that BTS members Jungkook and Taehyung had openly opposed certain decisions made by HYBE Corporation, few believed the rumors. After all, BTS had long been seen as the crown jewel of HYBE, the very group that transformed the company from a struggling mid-tier label into one of the most powerful entertainment corporations in the world. Yet the story gained traction quickly, with multiple insider reports suggesting that the disagreement was more serious than casual differences of opinion. The word panic is not used lightly in describing ARMY's reaction. Fans across the globe who have witnessed BTS grow from humble beginnings into global icons immediately felt that the group's stability was under threat. The anxiety spread across social media within hours. Hashtags demanding clarity from HYBE trended worldwide. International media outlets began to cover the controversy, amplifying the uncertainty. What could possibly have pushed Jungkook and Taehyung, two of BTS's most central members, to oppose their own agency? The timing could not have been more sensitive. With BTS members fulfilling their mandatory military service at staggered intervals, and with HYBE carefully planning group and solo projects to maintain momentum, any disruption threatened to destabilize the entire strategy. Jungkook and Taehyung's reported resistance thus represented more than a personal dispute. It symbolized a crack in the foundation of one of the most meticulously managed groups in modern music history. Speculation ran rampant. Some suggested creative disagreements. Others suspected disputes over scheduling, revenue distribution, or control over solo projects. Regardless of the specific trigger, the narrative was clear. Jungkook and Taehyung were not aligned with HYBE's direction, and HYBE's staff had been forced to address the growing conflict. That is where the most shocking twist emerged. Claims that certain HYBE staff members had gone so far as to propose limiting the two idols' roles, or even considering their removal from key future plans for ARMY. The idea was unthinkable. Jungkook, the youngest member, has been considered the golden magne of BTS, praised for his all-around talent and immense popularity. Taehyung, often known by his stage name V, is one of the group's most distinctive personalities, beloved for his deep voice, acting skills, and global influence. To imagine HYBE sidelining or excluding either of them felt not only unrealistic, but almost self-destructive. Yet the rumors persisted, fueling a sense of crisis that extended beyond fandom spaces and into wider industry discussions. To understand why this situation created such a shockwave, one must revisit the foundations of BTS's relationship with HYBE. BTS was not simply another idol group managed by a large entertainment company. They were the group that built HYBE. When BTS debuted in 2013 under Big Hit Entertainment, the company was far from the industry's upper echelon. Competing against giants like SM, JYP, and YG Entertainment, Big Hit was considered a small player with little chance of breaking through. But through strategic use of social media, relentless dedication, and the authenticity of its members, BTS defied the odds. The bond between BTS and Big Hit was unique. The members themselves often spoke about the difficult early years, when they trained under strict budgets, performed in small venues, and struggled for recognition. Those experiences created a sense of shared destiny between the group and the company. When BTS eventually exploded onto the global stage, bringing Big Hit with them, the transformation into HYBE Corporation was cemented. For many, it seemed inconceivable that tensions could one day arise between BTS members and the company they helped elevate, and yet, history shows that even the closest artist-agency relationships are vulnerable to strain. The K-pop industry is notorious for its rigid structures, where companies often prioritize commercial strategy over artistic freedom. Contracts, schedules, and financial pressures can weigh heavily on artists, even those at the very top. While BTS has long been praised for breaking industry norms and enjoying greater creative freedom than many peers, they are not immune to the systemic pressures of the business. Thus, when reports emerged that Jungkook and Taehyung had pushed back against HYBE's decisions, many analysts saw it not as an isolated conflict, but as a reflection of larger tensions. The company is now a publicly traded entity, accountable to shareholders who demand consistent profits. At the same time, the members of BTS are evolving into individual artists with distinct visions for their futures. Balancing these competing interests is no easy task, and the latest controversy suggests that the balance may have tipped into open disagreement. The situation also underscores the fragile psychology of fandom. ARMY, more than most fan bases, is deeply invested in BTS not only as performers, but as individuals. They are attuned to every shift in tone, every subtle gesture, and every unconfirmed rumor. When faced with the possibility that internal conflict could jeopardize the group's unity, the reaction is immediate and intense. Panic is not simply an overreaction, but a manifestation of the bond that ARMY feels with BTS and of the belief that the group represents something greater than entertainment. Resilience, authenticity, and hoped HYBE, for its part, has found itself in a delicate position. Publicly, the company cannot afford to acknowledge severe internal conflict, as doing so would risk shareholder confidence and public trust. Privately, however, the company must grapple with the reality that two of its most important artists are reportedly dissatisfied. The alleged suggestions by staff to consider excluding Jungkook and Taehyung, while extreme, illustrate the level of pressure within HYBE to maintain control and stability at any cost. Whether these suggestions were ever seriously considered remains unclear. Industry insiders often exaggerate or misinterpret internal discussions, and without official confirmation, the rumors remain speculative. Nevertheless, the very idea that such discussions could take place was enough to ignite a firestorm. ARMY demanded transparency. Journalists sought answers, and analysts began debating what the situation revealed about HYBE's management practices. By the end of the first week after the story broke, one thing was undeniable. The controversy had shaken the foundations of the BTS-HYBE relationship. It was no longer possible to dismiss the rumors as harmless chatter. The panic had taken root, and with it came urgent questions. What exactly were Jungkook and Taehyung opposing? How would HYBE respond to the backlash? Could the unity of BTS survive this storm? These questions marked the beginning of a saga that would unfold in the weeks to come, a saga that would test the resilience of BTS, the flexibility of HYBE, and the loyalty of ARMY on a scale rarely seen before in the music industry. The controversy surrounding Jungkook and Taehyung's reported opposition to HYBE's decisions did not emerge from a vacuum. Beneath the headlines and social media reactions lies a series of structural and personal factors that shaped the disagreement. To fully grasp the scale of the issue, it is necessary to examine not only the immediate sparks of conflict, but also the long-term dynamics that created tension between two of BTS's most prominent members and their management company. The first and most consistent factor involves creative autonomy. Both Jungkook and Taehyung have steadily developed their identities as artists beyond the group's collective identity. Jungkook, often dubbed the Golden Magne, has consistently shown versatility across singing, dancing, songwriting, and production. His solo works have demonstrated a personal style that merges global pop trends with his own unique sensibilities. Taehyung, known for his deep baritone voice and interest in jazz, R&B, and visual storytelling, has pursued an aesthetic path that differs significantly from mainstream K-pop formulas. When HYBE attempted to consolidate group and individual activities under its overarching corporate strategies, conflicts naturally arose. Reports suggest that both Jungkook and Taehyung felt constrained by decisions that seemed to prioritize commercial efficiency over individual expression. For artists who have worked tirelessly to establish their own creative voices, such constraints were not easy to accept. Their opposition, then, was not simply an act of rebellion, but a defense of their artistic integrity. A second factor involves scheduling and workload management. BTS as a group has entered a unique transitional phase due to South Korea's mandatory military service. With different members enlisting at different times, HYBE has sought to maintain global visibility by promoting solo projects, unit activities, and pre-recorded content. Although no official documents or statements confirm these discussions, the rumors alone were enough to fuel panic. For ARMY, the idea that HYBE staff could even contemplate sidelining Jungkook and Taehyung felt like a betrayal of the very foundation upon which HYBE had been built. After all, these two members were not peripheral figures, but core architects of BTS's global identity. To imagine them excluded from projects was to imagine an incomplete BTS, an outcome that fans simply could not accept. Industry analysts observed that the situation highlighted a classic struggle between institutional power and individual agency. In the early stages of their careers, K-pop idols typically conform to the strict direction of their agencies, which control everything from musical style to public image. As idols grow in influence and experience, however, they often seek greater independence. For most groups, this negotiation happens behind closed doors, away from public scrutiny. For BTS, however, every development is magnified on a global stage, making private disputes almost impossible to contain. Another element worth noting is the generational shift within BTS itself. As the members approach their 30s, their priorities and perspectives naturally evolve. What once might have been accepted as necessary sacrifices for success may now be viewed as constraints. Jungkook and Taehyung, both known for their candid personalities, have never shied away from expressing individuality. Their willingness to challenge HYBE reflects not only personal dissatisfaction but also the changing nature of BTS as a whole, from a rising idol group into a collection of mature artists navigating their own paths. This generational shift intersects with HYBE's evolving identity. Once a company defined by its close relationship with BTS, HYBE has now grown into a multi-label conglomerate with global ambitions, managing multiple groups, expanding into technology, and pursuing acquisitions beyond Korea. In this context, BTS, while still central, are no longer the company's only focus. For Jungkook and Taehyung, the perception that BTS's voice within HYBE was diminishing may have added fuel to their opposition. The immediate question is whether this opposition represents a short-term conflict or a long-term fracture. On the one hand, disagreements between artists and management are common and can often be resolved through negotiation. On the other hand, the scale of this conflict, amplified by fan panic and media coverage, risks entrenching positions on both sides. If HYBE insists on prioritizing corporate uniformity while Jungkook and Taehyung insist on defending autonomy, reconciliation may prove more difficult. For ARMY, the root causes matter less than the potential consequences. Fans view BTS not as a collection of individual ambitions, but as a unified whole. The possibility that two members could be sidelined or that the group's unity could fracture represents a worst-case scenario. The panic, therefore, is not only about the current opposition but about what it might signal for the future of BTS. The roots of opposition, then, are multifaceted: creative autonomy, scheduling conflicts, corporate pressures, and generational shifts. Together, they form a complex web of challenges that cannot be easily untangled. What is clear is that Jungkook and Taehyung have reached a point where silence or compliance is no longer possible. Their decision to resist reflects not impulsive rebellion but deep-seated concerns about the trajectory of their careers and their place within HYBE's future. While public discussions focused on fan panic and speculation, the real drama unfolded behind closed doors at HYBE's headquarters in Seoul. Inside the company, executives and staff were forced to confront a difficult reality. Two of their most valuable artists were openly opposing company strategies, and the conflict was threatening to destabilize both internal operations and external perception. Accounts from insiders describe a tense atmosphere. Meetings reportedly stretched late into the night as teams debated how to handle the situation. On one side were those who argued for flexibility, believing that Jungkook and Taehyung's artistic concerns should be accommodated to protect the long-term health of BTS. On the other side were staff members who saw the opposition as a direct challenge to HYBE's authority, warning that giving in could undermine the company's broader control over its artists. This internal division is significant. HYBE, as a corporation, prides itself on structured systems and centralized decision-making. For staff